Hello everybody, welcome to the Adventures of Pete. Today I thought I would make a quick, basically a how-to video. I'm going to change the oil on my motorcycle. So my motorcycle, I've showed it to everyone before, is a 2001 Honda Nighthawk 750. They used to refer to these motorcycles as UJMs, or Universal Japanese Motorcycle. So all the manufacturers had their version of this bike. Suzuki had one, Yamaha, all those manufacturers had their version of the CB750, which is what this bike basically is. So this video should cover all those different styles of motorcycles, as long as they're inline 4-cylinders. It'll be virtually identical. However, changing the oil in any vehicle is only a few different steps, and if you follow the steps that I'm about to go over, then it should apply to basically any kind of motorcycle. So cool. So first of all, let me go over some of the supplies that I got for this, and let me switch around here. So this is the actual product that, if you go into the when I bought this motorcycle, the guy that I bought it off of gave me a bunch of different things. One of the things that he gave me was this service manual, which I've got a couple different service manuals for different vehicles. Chilton makes a really good one, but this particular manual, it's expensive, I believe, but it is just incredible with like all the different diagrams and stuff like that. So it really gets into everything. It's got great big pictures, which really helps me. I really like the pictures, to be honest with you. But it gives you a whole maintenance schedule in here and stuff like that, and just goes over the basics of how to do everything. So I would certainly recommend getting a service manual for any vehicle that you would have, especially if you're going to do any kind of maintenance. It's just full of information. Like you can see here, it kind of tells you different spark plugs and the models and stuff like that. It just kind of gets into all of that stuff. I think it probably gets into gapping. It has all kinds of torque specs in here and stuff like that. Like I said, lots of nice pictures. So it's always a good thing. Right here in this section, it talks all about engine oil and filter change. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm going to basically show you the different steps for that. But it's only like a page and a half, the whole, and as thorough as this manual is, that's all they really need to write and tell you about on how to do this. So and of course YouTube has all kinds of instructional videos. I'm trying to make you one right here, and so do a little bit of homework before you get into it. So here we go. This is all you're going to need today. I got an actual Honda filter. So this particular bike, the maintenance is so minimal as it is that I just pony up and get the authentic Honda parts that the manual recommends and that the manufacturer recommends. Anything that you feel comfortable using. I know Wix makes a really good filter. Derek from Vice Grip Garage, he swears by Wix, and Derek seems to be way more competent than me, so go with Wix if you can find those. But whatever you do, get a good filter. Don't get the cheapest thing that you can find. It's only going to cost you a couple more bucks, and it's going to be well worth it. So get a good filter. But I only use this Honda stuff because to me it's only a few dollars more, and it's really what the manufacturer specified, and I feel comfortable using it. I've had this motorcycle for quite some time, and I've predominantly stuck to this stuff, and it's worked well for me. So use any product you feel comfortable with. But filter, I think this is an older jug that I had, so I went out and bought a brand new jug. And then if you look on top here, this thing, it's called a crush washer. I'll get into that later, but when you pull the drain plug from your oil pan, there's a little washer behind it, and that's exactly what this is. They're a super cheap part too. Couldn't be more than like $1.50 or something, so well worthwhile to invest in that as well. And then you'll pretty much guaranteed you won't have any leaks there, so you could probably reuse them a couple times, but it's so cheap, it's really worth it to replace it, especially if you can, you know, go out to a dealership and they got them right there and stuff. So, and then last but not least, I actually went out and got some chain lube. I want to spray some lube on the chain, and I actually have a special brush. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, here it is. So it's the brush for the actual chain. Look at that. It's like a 3-sided brush, and you know, you just put it right on there like that, and you can see it gets all the way around it. Again, really cheap product. You could probably buy these on Amazon for like less than 10 bucks, I'm sure. But really, really cool, and you know you're going to get your chain nice and clean. Chain, you don't have to maintenance too much, you know what I mean? You just make sure it's lubed up really good, and then from time to time, if you start to see some grit, you're going to want to clean it up and re-lube it back down. So that's what we're doing today. So let's go ahead and get into it. First thing I'm going to do is pop off the filler tube. This is where the dipstick is. Let me put the light on so you can see it a little better. Down here, this is basically your dipstick and also where you will fill. So let me get a rag real quick. We'll pull that out. The reason I'm pulling that out is so the oil will drain really nice. I think it creates some kind of suction or something. So we're going to pull that out. And throw it on that rag. So it's going to have a little bit of oil on it. So let's see there. Can you see that good? Yeah, so the oil's, you know, I keep track of that stuff pretty good. You can see it's not really too dark looking. So this particular motorcycle is a air-cooled motorcycle, and because it's air-cooled, you can see the fins here. This is mainly how it cools, is by having air blow across here. A lot of the heat will come out to the edge of these fins, and then the air will blow past there, and that's kind of like how the engine's being cooled. However, if you're sitting in a red light, there's no air going across there. So I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe the oil really starts to bake and really starts to cook, especially on a hot day and you're just sitting there and there's no air is blowing across there. So I believe if you have an air-cooled vehicle like this, and they're going away from that type of technology, you generally don't see air-cooled anything anymore. Everything's got a radiator with antifreeze flowing through it and stuff like that to cool off engines and therefore your oil and stuff like that. So anything that's air-cooled, I believe your oil is going to break down a lot quicker. So you should be extremely adamant about making sure your oil is changed regularly on an air-cooled vehicle. Now, that being said, when I used to talk to my pop about changing oil and stuff like that, his advice was that you need to pull the dipstick out and look at it, feel it on your fingers. Oil should have what's called it's called viscosity, and it's kind of like a stickiness and stuff like that. Your oil will drain down in your engine, and then when you fire everything up and everything starts spinning and stuff, the oil like splashes up into your engine, all the nooks and crannies, all that. And if you have good oil and good viscosity in your oil, the oil will splash up in there and kind of stay there almost, not immediately just start to drip down and run down and stuff like that. So as your oil gets old and starts to break down and stuff like that, I believe it starts to lose its viscosity. Therefore, it doesn't attach itself. It doesn't stick anywhere, and it doesn't really stick. It just kind of temporarily sticks for like a very short period of time, and then gets splashed up there again. Because you really don't want metal to metal. You want a thin layer of oil on everything. So, and that's how all these systems are designed to work. So, anyhow, little rant there, but change your oil regularly is the gist of it. They always talk about sludge buildup and stuff like that. Well, sludge is the oil that's been broken down over time, that's got no viscosity, got no like real oil quality to it anymore, and it starts to like almost harden up and turn into like so, and that's simply because you didn't change your oil regularly enough. So change your oil, everybody. All right, cool. So I'm going to get my drain pan now. I'm going to put it underneath the motorcycle, and we need to find the drain plug on this. I know where it's at. I think it's on the other side. I'll have to get over to the other side and see if we can find this here. So let's see. Not that one. I think it's that guy. Yep. Right there. So, you know, like I said, motorcycles are pretty universal almost, if you will. You got to get underneath there. You got to look around a little bit. It'll almost make sense. This is the bottom of the motor. This is the lowest part. This is where the oil pan is, right? Without even really knowing that much about this stuff. I mean, I know a little bit, obviously, but I'm just saying, you don't have to know all about this stuff. You don't have to have a manual. Just get underneath there and look a little bit. There's your drain plug. If you look close enough, you can see the crush washer behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and get a wrench for that. Let's figure out what wrench it is now. All right, so most Japanese motorcycles are going to be metric, obviously. So let's work with these metric wrenches. See what we got here. What do we got here? Let's go with this 13. Let's see here. Nope. How about 15? Nope. A little bit bigger. Wow. All right. Uh-oh. That's it. All right, so figure out your wrench size, put it on there, and crack her loose. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? So make sure you get your pan underneath there, obviously. Let me put this on a tripod so it's not so shaky. And a little bit of a tight quarter here, so hopefully you have a good view of that. I need to come down a little bit. Maybe. That's there. All right, so the trick here is you break that loose and start to unwind it with your hand. Push up on it. Push up on it while you're doing this. And what you want to do is you want to twist it off, but you want to hear it like kind of click first, right? And if you keep pushing up on it, the oil won't come out yet. So keep pushing up, keep pushing up. Oh, it's loose. Get your hand out of there quick, or that happens. So you really don't want to get oil on your hands if you can avoid it. It is some nasty stuff. So wipe your hands off. Alright, so it's draining. It doesn't really look crazy dirty to me, which is good. So it means I'm changing it in time. The other thing that's important to remember about a motorcycle, at least this particular motorcycle and its oil system, is the oil also is transmission, so it's one big system. So I've spoken with motorcycle technicians, Honda motorcycle technicians, and they told me never to use full synthetic oil in a motorcycle, because that oil also works in your transmission. So fully synthetic oil is going to be very slippery, and therefore your clutches will actually slip and stuff, and it won't hook up and it won't grab. So it's I'd stay clear of using a fully synthetic oil in your motorcycle. It's great in other applications, but not in this application. It's not what you want to do. So alright, so we're going to let this guy completely drain, obviously, and we're going to move on to the next step with it, which is removing the filter. There's a couple really important things I got to point out there. So actually, this motorcycle holds a little secret that I'm about to share with everyone. That's really, if you don't get anything out of this video, this is what you're going to want to get. And if you look here, the filter, there's your filter. This motorcycle has these, 4 exhaust pipes coming through here, and the filter is a certain size, and there's not really that many big holes here. So once you get the filter out, you're going to wonder, how the heck do I get this thing out of here? It obviously doesn't go through the bottom. They're really close there. There's not enough space right there on the side. So I'll show you the trick to that. But let me show you something else, a little trick and tip that I learned from my pop when I was younger. So let's see here. Well, the one thing he definitely taught me was to always clean up your workspace, which this space is not very clean right now. But anyhow, here's what I want to show you. This is the drain plug. One thing that he taught me was to take a rag like this and take your, this isn't a good example because I just cut my fingernail, but you basically take your thumb on the rag here and flip this over like this, and you kind of stick your thumbnail into the threads of the screw, and you start to crank it out like that. Just start twisting it while you're finger is inside of all the threads. And what you're trying to do is, if there's any little bit of dirt, debris, grime, any of that kind of stuff, little pebbles, you name it, you're trying to work all that out of there with your finger. And you should end up with a really clean threads on there. This is what I was talking to you about, that crush washer. And you can see there's actually some grooves and stuff on there from when it was crushed down. So I'm going to replace that. Put the new one on there. Now this crush washer looks perfectly fine to me, it really does. But if you really look at it, you can see there's some grooves and stuff in there. Maybe that's too. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a lip right there. I can feel it. I don't think the other one has that lip, so that's from it being crushed down. I think if you start to, yeah, this is really smooth, this new one. There's no lip like that. So I think if you crush them down too many times, that lip starts to get more and more pronounced, and it causes a problem. So let's go to the filter. So cool thing, it's actually another little tool that I got. It's called an oil filter wrench. We will get that. I don't think that this part cost a whole lot either. Oil filter wrench. Oil filter socket. No, not wrench, socket, I believe. Oil filter socket. So, a little test fit. Look at that, perfect. So, it just fits over the end of it. And you can put a socket wrench right there and just crank it off. Don't put your oil filters on too tight, people. They're really not supposed to get on crazy tight. I should actually be able to completely twist this off with my hand and not even use the filter wrench at all. So let me see if we're done draining here first. Pretty much. There's a little bit of a drip left. So I want to get the oil pan underneath where the oil filter is, because I know it's gonna, I know some oil is gonna get down in there. Another thing is I always get oil down on those exhaust pipes when I unscrew that. So I'm gonna get a couple rags here and lay it down in hopes that that oil doesn't get my exhaust pipes too bad. Let's see here, I'm just gonna fold her over, shove it up in there somehow. Let's see. Something like that there. And then let's see. Can't really get my hand in there. Let's see if I can twist this off. Can you see that okay? Nope, I don't think I can. So maybe I did put a little bit of a crank on there. But quite literally, you shouldn't have to be too aggressive about putting your oil filter on as far as crank. And I guess you do just have to let the oil hit that pipe and let it wipe up anyhow. So, alright. That's what you deal with. Not a big deal. Let's get this guy out of here. Twist them off. Immediately try to tip them up so the oil doesn't spill everywhere. And you have to get this out through the middle here. It's a little bit tricky. You can actually, I think, push on the pipes a little bit. Let's just go ahead and tip it out. Let all the oil get out of there. it's going to want to spill anyhow, so. Alright, see how that fit through there? It's very tight, but it'll fit through there. That's the secret of this whole video. So if you guys watched anything, that's the trick right there. It just goes down in there, pops in there like that. One thing you're supposed to do when you change your oil is fill the filter, prime the filter, if you will, with oil. Because of the way you have to install this, I mean, you can't hold that thing straight up and down. You can only put so much oil in there then. So, anyhow, that's your filter. Take your filter out, drain your oil into your pan, wipe up any messes that you make. Kitty litter cleans oil spills up the best if you get it on concrete, stuff like that. So alright, we're doing everything wrong today, but we're still going to get her done. Next step, put the new filter back on. Again, you're supposed to fill the filter up with oil. But I really don't with this one. I might dump a little bit in there. See how that goes. So the other most important thing to do whenever you're doing oil changes and installing your new oil filter is you get a little dab of the other filter, other oil, dirty oil, it doesn't matter. So you're just doing a little bit. Put a little bit on your finger like that and run it around this O-ring here. It's a little rubber O-ring. Run it around that O-ring. And here's why. When you twist this thing on there, if this O-ring is dry, what can happen is when it gets seated with the surface and you're still twisting it on there, the O-ring can grab a hold and the O-ring will stay still while you're twisting the oil filter on, and it'll separate. And sometimes it can cause like this O-ring in here to like pinch up or something like that, and it'll cause it to leak. So it's very important that you run that little bit of oil around there before you install it. I'm also going to come in here and wipe this up a little bit, the surface that it's about to go on. So I'm just going to get in here with the rag, kind of clean this up. It looks really nice to me, actually. So not too bad. Another thing that can happen when you're doing oil changes on any kind of vehicle is that little O-ring that I was referring to. This little O-ring on here, when you take the old one off, that O-ring sometimes can stay on this surface down here. Let me point this way maybe. So right there. So that surface sometimes can have another O-ring on there, and you twist the new one on there on the old one, you'll also get a leak. So you have to be mindful of that, and that's why when you wipe this off, you're basically inspecting for that, checking to make sure that that's all good. You're really going to want to wipe off as much of this oil as you can on these pipes, or it's going to smoke like crazy for a little while. So I'll get to that later. But for now, let's see. I think I'm going to dump just a little bit of oil in this filter here. Just a little bit in here. And it looks like it's about halfway full. Make sure I get a really good view in here. So wait a second, you have to be able to see this. So hold on a second here. There we go. Now you can see everything. Okay, so again, oil filter, bring it in through the top here. And then she goes in. So it's literally one way on this motorcycle. So spin that sucker on there. I'm actually going to use this filter wrench. I actually like that it was kind of stripping there. It couldn't get the old one off. It means I'm not going to be able to torque it on too hard with this. So I mean, it's literally like snug, and then a little, just a little something something once you get her snug, and that's all you need. Get that guy out of there. There's your filter. All right, cool. That was way more difficult than it should have been, but we got through it. So one thing about mechanics, even the simplest things can turn into the most difficult things. So there you go. So all I got to do left now is top her off with oil and start the motor up. And like I said, when I filled that oil filter up, I didn't fill it the whole way up. So when I fill the oil up in the bike now, and then read it on the dipstick, it's going to say one thing, but then after I start the motorcycle up, that oil filter is going to fill the rest of the way up with oil, and therefore bring my oil level down, and then I have to top it off again. So right now, even though I'm going to fill it up and top it off, check it so it's perfect, I'm going to check it again after I ride it, and that's the right way to do that. So cool. I'm just going to go ahead and top that off. I don't think that, well, maybe I can show that. Again, I'm going to come back here to my manual. What's it say here? I don't need this light anymore, I don't think. Maybe I do. No, it didn't fit there. Oil capacity. And it has two different capacities, one at draining, one at oil filter change. We are going to do the one at oil filter change since we changed the oil filter, and it says 3.1 US quarts. So that gives me an idea of what I need. One of these canisters is 4. So you won't quite use the whole thing. So don't just start dumping the whole thing in there. It's important. So let's see here. What do I do with the cap for that? I'll find it. Cool. Oh, there it is right there. So I've got a little bit left in this one still. And then I even actually have a little bit left in this one as well. So, all right, so drain plug. This is important to go back in before you put any oil back in there. So let's see what we're doing here. Still got a little drip going there. Still got a little drip. So I'm going to wait a little bit on that. Let it drain the whole way out. Get all that old stuff out of there. I suppose I could do the chain, but I'm inside and that spray smells really nasty. So basically all I do is I get back here. That chain stuff is obviously very sticky and very nasty, and there's like all on the here and here there's like a layer of all that. So I basically just put it in put the bike in neutral. I put it up on the center stand, which this motorcycle has. It's got a kickstand and a center stand. So put it on the center stand, which allows this back tire to be able to come up off the ground, and then I can just tilt it. Sometimes I get like a little piece of straw or grass or something and just kind of stick it in there so I can see when the chain comes the whole way around when I'm spraying. I don't think you have to necessarily like really cake it on there. Just make it so it's on there really well, and just keep spinning the wheel like this, and spraying it on there as evenly as you can. And just be careful that you're really trying to focus it on the chain and not spraying it all over all of this stuff. So that's the gist of you know, doing your chain. And if you can get that brush, like I said, and clean it up a little bit first, that would be cool. I've never tried it. I suppose you could try to put the bike in gear and just, you know, let the bike do all the work. I don't know. It seems like maybe it could be slightly risky to do that if it kicked off there, man. So I just do it with my hand. It doesn't take hardly any time at all, and you can be really thorough doing it that way. So that's all I do for the chain, as far as maintaining the chain. But it's important to do so. It'll make it'll just make things really smooth and quiet, and your chain will just last much longer if you keep it maintained. So I'm going to get a couple more rags. I'm going to wipe off the surface there where the drain plug goes into, and I'm going to jam that drain plug up in there. I think it's had enough time to drain. It's got most of it out of there, I'm sure. So let me pop this up on a stand. Alright, that should be cool. So, like I said, new crush washer. Cleaned all the threads out in there with my fingernail and the rag. I'm gonna get up in here, just make sure that surface is really clean in there, and try to jam that up in there as quickly as I can. There we go. Crank her up in there. And again, this, you don't have to get too crazy with tightening this down. You want it good and tight, that's for sure, but I think you can actually do more harm if you tighten it too much. So get on there and just literally, I'm only probably going to give it not even an eighth of a turn now because it's already snug, but just kind of get it on there good and snug so it's kind of tight, and just give it a good and that's it. That's all I really have to do, and that'll be good to go. You shouldn't have to worry about that leaking. So again, try to clean up your pipes the best you can, or it's going to smoke like crazy on you once it heats up. But it'll eventually burn off and the smell will go away. So alright, cool. So let's see here. Let's fill her up. We got some funnels here. I always like to throw rags down inside of them to keep any dirt from getting in there. You really don't want to get any dirt in there. You want them to be as clean as possible. If you jam this filter the whole way down in there, like that, it'll actually seal around there and the oil won't actually go down in there. So you're actually supposed to leave a little bit of an air gap in there. What I like to do is just kind of stick it in there and just let it tilt a little bit. It'll kind of hold itself in position. But when you're filling it up, you pretty much have to hold this with one hand and use the other hand to dump the oil in there. So let's see if I can get you set up here so I can do that. It's not too bad there, huh? No, down a little more. Alright, cool. It's not a bad view. So like I said, 4-quart jug. You're only supposed to put 2.9 in there, so whoop. Alright, so let's see if we can show this. Four-quart jug. We've got liter, 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 quart, quart, quart. So I'm supposed to have a little bit over. I think that's quart, right? I don't know what it says. I'm going to run it down to just above here. Check it a little bit. This is definitely something where you have to be a smidge patient. So tempting just to want to start dumping this stuff in there. But take your time on it. It's a lot harder to go back and try to remove oil than it would ever be to. So you can see I'm down to there now. So I got about 1 quart, I think, in there. But slowly do it. The slower you do it, the easier it is for you to stop and check your can and not overdo it. Yeah, see, I'm going a little too slow, I think, but I think it's still, whoop. So it'll fill up in the funnel if you go too fast. So gotta keep it slow and steady. Let's see where we're at now. Still got a little more to go. Let's see what that is. Still think more. Alright, so I'm going to go just a little more and then I'm going to test it. Okay. Alright, where did I leave it at? Right there. You can see what I got about left on it. I hope you can see that. dipstick back. Again, I take the dipstick here. I've taken, let's see, you can actually see what I do here, but I try to stick my thumbnail in the grooves there, and I literally just wind it out while I'm sticking my thumb in there. There we go, and that'll clean out any junk in there, any dirt or debris. Alright, another important thing about checking the oil on these motorcycles is you don't want it leaning on the side, you want it straight up and down. So if you don't have it on the center stand, then you have to get on the bike and lean it up straight to check your oil. And you're not supposed to crank it back in. You see that? I don't know if you can see that. Still needs a little more on there, but doesn't look like a whole lot more. This oil here, obviously it's brand new. You can see how clear and clean it looks. Very clean. So it looks like it's about right there. It needs to come up just a little bit more. You know, right to the edge of that, right there. So I'm getting close. And this is the time where, again, you got to be patient. You're probably going to check this like 4 or 5 times. Just be ready to do so if you want to do it right. You really don't want to overfill if you can help it. You see it? It's like right there. It needs to come up just a little bit more, I think. But you always wipe it clean. Give it a test. A little bit more. I get like 3 or 4 glugs right there. Let's see where we're at on the meter here. I'm gonna get a little bit more on it. That felt right to me right there. Let's see it. That's right where I believe it should be. Wipe that clean. Get another little test. Alright. I like that there. So I'm going to leave that there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to start the bike up. Let it run for a little while. Do another test. Top it off again. Take it for a little cruise. Do another check. If it needs topped off yet again, I'll do it yet again. So it's definitely, you're definitely lucky if you. Well, geez, I don't quite know when it shut off, but it was running most of the time, I'm pretty sure. So, but I'm about done. The last thing I want to talk about is properly disposing of your oil. A lot of auto parts stores will recycle oil for you. So locally here I've got Advanced Auto Parts, and I just take this there and tell them I want to recycle some oil, they point me towards the back, and they'll have like this big barrel, like a big 55-gallon barrel, or no, 300-gallon or something, huge barrel, and you just go and you dump this in there. So my immediate oil pan I use, I just use it so I can actually see it. And then, as you can see here, I transfer it into this other pan here that seals up and everything. I like to examine the oil a little bit when I'm draining it in there. I think this was definitely due for a change. I've seen worse, that's for sure, but if you've watched any of my videos, you can see how hard I run my bike sometimes. So whenever you run a bike hard like that, it's best, or anything hard, it's best that you keep the oil changed regularly. Best thing you can do. People talk about your engine oil being your lifeblood, what have you. Some truth to that. So the one thing about taking an oil thing like this to get it recycled is they do not want you dripping one drop of oil on their floors. So I like to try to wipe these down, get them really nice and clean, and then I also stick them in just a little trash bag, just in case anything was to be dripping out. I could get it nice and cleaned up. So again, oil's nasty stuff. Wash your hands thoroughly when you're done. Surprisingly enough, you know, your straight up Dawn dish liquid is about as good as you can get for that. So Dawn dish liquid, good stuff. Cool. So I thought this would be a fun video for people to watch. It's probably longer than heck, but it was pretty thorough, I thought. So I hope some of these tips will help some people maintain their own vehicles. Oil change is the simplest thing you can do. Maintaining your bike, you know for a fact that you put the best product in there. You know for a fact that you got the level perfect when you checked it 3 or 4 times. You don't know that people do that when you take it somewhere. You just don't. I mean, let's face it, you know, no one's going to care for your vehicle like you will, unless you really find that really nice mechanic, you know, that are so rare to find. So being able to do your own oil changes is a really good thing to do yourself. Nowadays it's cheap enough to get it done at other places, but they're probably putting bulk oil in there. They're probably putting the cheapest oil filter they can find, you know, and I think you'll just find that it makes a big difference in the life of your vehicle if you use really good products that are only going to be a few dollars more. That's really it. So that's my advice. Don't skimp out on this stuff. If you do the work yourself, you can buy the better products, and it'll still cost the same as if you took it someplace. But I understand people only have so much time, so I get it. But thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate everyone's viewership. I got a couple of videos that are doing kind of good, so I'm trying to do a couple other different types of videos to see what people like and stuff. So I hope this is one that people like. It was fun for me to do. The bikes need a little bit of maintenance lately. I've been riding it quite a bit, enjoying it. So I like to wrap my videos up on a little bit of a positive note, and you know, tell everybody to be good to each other. It's amazing in life, you truly get right back what you put back out there. So if you're walking around with a nasty look in your eye, you're going to get that right back. So if you're walking around with a big smile on your face, you're going to get that back. And I can tell you from somebody that's seen a little bit of both, it's a much more pleasant world to be in when people are coming at you with a smile on their face, as opposed to you know, an evil grin or something like that. So and it's amazing how you can affect other. So GoPro was overheating. That's interesting. Never had that happen before. But cool. I'm just starting to learn more and more about this camera. And this video is definitely shaky at points because I'm still learning how to videotape well and stuff like that. So I'm getting a few more tools at my disposal and stuff like that. So cool. I think I was cut off basically when I was getting to the best part of the video, where I was telling everyone to be good to each other and you know, go around and try to put a smile on other people's faces. It's very important. So you know, if you see that person that looks a little bit down in the dumps, you know, take a second to give them a big old smile and see if that doesn't turn their day around. So that's really what I wanted to say. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope this video serves you well. I hope it wasn't too crazy long, but I think I put in some pretty good pointers in here, stuff I've learned over the years from my pop and stuff like that. So some really good general maintenance type tips for you to do. So Universal Japanese motorcycle, CB750 oil change. Hope it serves you well. Take care everybody. Be good to everyone. Later.